key element when you're in the woods, if you're going to spend the night, is trying to get yourself up off the ground, trying to get yourself a barrier between you and the ground. The ground is going to suck heat out of you so fast. I've seen a lot of people that just lay a poncho down and they think their sleeping bag and a poncho is going to be enough to give them insulation from the ground. Well, they end up getting cold because it compresses all your insulation below you. So what you want to do is have some way to get up off the ground, and it makes you sleep a whole lot better, a whole lot warmer, elevating yourself up. There's a lot of commercial stuff out there, you know, Thermarest and the Big Agnes Aircore pads and just regular old closed cell foam pads that you can get at Walmart. Those all work real well, but sometimes you want a little bit more, especially if it's real cold. Also, this will work for if you're doing some natural shelters and you just want to go out and test your skills a little bit and practice. This works real well. Traditionally, people have used pine boughs for insulation beds, and there's nothing wrong with using pine boughs, but in this day and age, we as stewards of the outdoors, I think we have to be a little bit more mindful of what we use and the materials that we gather from around us. And pine boughs aren't always the best option. If you're in an area which allows that, they work great, and certain ones work better than others. Hemlock and firs work real well. Spruce are okay, but they're a little pointy. I've slept on lots and lots of bough beds, but I've also slept on lots of different types of insulation beds. And the key to a good insulation bed is just getting yourself up off the ground and being sure you're dry, and it's going to help keep you very warm throughout the night. So some of the common materials, we used to use a lot of squaw wood just as our first base layer, get us up off the ground. I want to have a couple of logs, and these weren't cut with any tools, they're just broken off. You don't have to have a lot of tools to do this. And the first layer we can do is laying down a bunch of squaw wood. You don't have to kick away the snow, you don't have to do anything, but you just lay this down. Willow branches work real good for this also, but we just want to keep ourselves up off the ground. And this is going to create that dead air space that we're looking for. That's what helps keep you warm. That's why when you're looking at loft and sleeping bags and in clothing, the dead air space is what keeps you warm. That's why snow is a good insulator also, because it has a lot of dead air space in it, a lot of air pockets. All right, so I've got a couple of logs here, you know, 4, 5, 6 foot long, and that's what's going to help me keep my insulation from spreading out. It's going to keep me in there and make me kind of like a little nest. Something else you can use that works fairly well, if you have it around, pine duff, as long as it's dry, works pretty well. You can spread that over the top, and there's not a lot of it. I just wanted to show you an example of it right there. Another good renewable resource is cattail sedge. And once again, we want to spread this stuff out. You can crisscross it. You can do other things with it, but just laying it flat works just fine. Now, something you have to be careful with cattail though, is a lot of times the ends of it can have quite a bit of moisture in it from waking it up through the lake or wet area wherever you're at. So you have to be careful that's not up against you. So with that, we can add grasses. Grasses are about the ultimate renewable resource. They grow every year, same as cattails do. Work really well for insulation as long as they're dry. Leaf litter can be okay too, but a lot of times it's moist. The problem is some people seem to think that even when some of these materials are wet, they'll keep you warm. That's not the case. They have to be dry. And sometimes you can build a reflector with a fire and then a shelter, and it can help dry out your bedding too. And also, it'll give you thermal mass if you're using this with a fire, and help hold a lot of heat and reflect it back down. So I'm laying it around. I like to go in line, and then you can crisscross it and go the other way. Got some frozen material in there. I'm going to get that out of there. One of the big questions I get when I've taught these classes is, how thick do you want it? Well, number one, if you're using the squaw wood underneath, you want it thick enough so that you don't feel that, and you want it thick enough to where it's warm. When you lay on this, it's going to compress down, and I'll show you in a minute how much it does. Alright, I'm going to go the other way. Crisscross it back and forth. Now that's got a lot of loft there, maybe about, I don't know, 12 inches of loft. When I lay on this, alright, I'm going to lay on it, and that's not just for a couple minutes. You can see how much it compressed, alright? It's still got a lot of good loft to it, and this would be a pretty decent bed to spend the night in. So what you're looking for is dry materials. They're going to insulate you up off the ground, and you want at least 12 inches of loft after you've laid on it.